The Forsaken Heir. Previous episodes are available on the playlist. You can also visit our website for your favorite stories. A link is provided in the video description. Episode 18. The eyes that looked at Charlie were also full of horror. Why is this guy so scary? Before the three of them actually fought him, they were hit by this person and they lost their combat effectiveness. This is simply a god. Charlie stepped up to the three of them, stared at them with two cold lights, and said coldly, "I like being a dog for others so much, then they will all crawl on the ground." After speaking, he stepped on the right leg of one of them. Click! The kneecap of the right leg was crushed immediately afterward. He raised his foot again, and the opponent's left leg was not let go. Seeing this, the other two trembled in shock. Immediately, the two cried and begged Charlie for mercy. Charlie said coldly, "You gangsters are more cruel than anyone when they hurt people, and more cowardly than anyone when they hurt you. I let you go today, and when you face the weak in the future, you will definitely be this vicious face. I abolished you for the sake of the people. After all, don't care about the other parties crying and wailing at all, going up is 4 feet. Click. 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 In the world, there have been 3 more useless people who can no longer stand up. The scene was frightened by Charlie's brutal methods. Fredman Wilson and Wendy who followed were also frightened. Fredman Wilson never dreamed that Charlie would be so ruthless and so strong. His 4 bodyguards, one face-to-face effort, were all gone. Completely scrapped. They are all master fighters. One of them was the national champion of fighting in previous years. Fredman Wilson's frightened legs swung straight, and the place where he was wet before felt cold. He turned around silently, stepping to escape. "Whatever you say, you can no longer fall into Charlie's hands at this time," someone suddenly said. "You old dog, you want to slip if you provoke Mr. Wade." Immediately after the crowd separated, Orville walked in with a few brawny men in black, with a sneer, directly stopped in front of Fredman Wilson. Fredman Wilson looked at him in a panic and asked, "Who are you?" Snapped. His response was a resounding slap in the face. 5 fingerprints appeared on Fredman Wilson's face, and he furiously said, "Do you dare to hit me? I am the president of the Nangguang Chamber of Commerce." Snapped. Orville didn't show any mercy and slapped his face again. "Guild leader? You're fighting the chairman. If you dare to be disrespectful to Mr. Charlie, you will die." Fredman Wilson was angry and frightened, and hurriedly said, "Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Between me and Mr. Charlie, it is just a misunderstanding. I'm leaving now, I'm leaving now. Want to go?" Orville smiled contemptuously and said, "Have you asked Mr. Wade?" Fredman Wilson hurriedly turned his head, looked at Charlie, and pleaded tremblingly, "Charlie, Mr. Charlie, it was a misunderstanding just now. These 4 guys troubled you, and I can't stop them. They are here now, facing the end they deserved. Please let me go." Charlie nodded and smiled. "Okay, I can let you go, after all, I let you go just now." Having said that, Charlie looked at him and said playfully, "However, what should you do? Don't I need to teach you any more?" Fredman Wilson was afraid that Charlie would abolish him like a bodyguard, so he knelt on the ground with a plop, crying in tears and begged, "Dad, I beg you, my lord, have a lot, so please spare your son this time." Orville was stunned and blurted out, "You really are so conscious." Fredman Wilson smiled bitterly and said, "I'll tell you, I'm already skilled in business." There was a sneer around. This Fredman Wilson is really unseated. At this moment, he called Charlie's father 3 times. What is the famous chairman of Future Company Group? However, how can Fredman Wilson take care of it now? He knows that a man must be able to bend and stretch. To be alive, you must first have fate before you can have a seed, right? Life is gone, does he want to plant an egg? Therefore, he hurriedly licked his face and said to Charlie, "Dad, please raise your hand and spare me this time. I will be grateful to Dad and Dad forever." Charlie waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's okay to call Dad just now, but it doesn't work now." Fredman Wilson was startled, thinking that Charlie was going to kill him, and kowtowed hurriedly crying, "Dad, I'm really wrong, Dad. Please, for the sake of my age, please spare me this time." Charlie glanced at Wendy, who was already scared next to him, and said lightly, "Wendy, your patrons are already kneeling, why are you still standing?" Wendy was taken aback, and said in a panic, "What do you mean?" Fredman Wilson hurriedly stretched out his hand and violently pulled her to the ground, causing her to kneel in front of Charlie, and whispered, "You let the dog eat your brain? Don't you know you want to kneel and talk to father?" No way, Fredman Wilson's desire to survive at this moment is too strong. Face, dignity, face, and so on are completely unimportant. Wendy knelt on the ground and did not dare to move or talk nonsense. Fredman Wilson then said to Charlie, "Dad, are you satisfied this time?" Charlie shook his head, not satisfied. Fredman Wilson trembled and asked, "Then how can you be satisfied?" Charlie smiled playfully and said, "Call me Grandpa loudly. If the call is good, I can consider letting you go." Fredman Wilson's heart wants to die. Today, he has a brain problem. He had to fight against this Charlie. Not only did he not take advantage of it, but it was bad luck. Beaten, knelt, kowtowed, called Dad, peed pants now, let him call his grandpa. It's shameful to throw it at Grandma's house. Seeing him hesitate, Charlie asked coldly, "What? You don't want to?" Fredman Wilson trembled and said hurriedly, "Yes, I do." After finishing speaking, he immediately knocked his head and cried, "Grandpa! I was really wrong, please forgive me." Charlie frowned and asked him, "Who am I?" Fredman Wilson said with tears, "You are my grandfather." Charlie asked again, "Then who are you?" Fredman Wilson cried and choked, "I am your grandson." Charlie gave a hum, nodded, and said, "Okay, I am so young, and I am also a grandfather. If this is the case, then I will spare your life." Fredman Wilson finally breathed a sigh of relief, kowtowed again and again, and got up to leave. "Wait a minute." Charlie stopped him, "Just leave like that? Without asking?" Fredman Wilson endured the humiliation and anger in his heart, and respectfully said to Charlie, "Grandpa, can I go now?" Charlie patted his face and said lightly, "You can go, my dear grandson." Fredman Wilson shed tears of humiliation, then turned around and walked out tremblingly. Wendy didn't dare to delay and immediately followed out. When the two of them left, they were afraid that Charlie would stop them, trouble them again, but Charlie had no interest in talking to them. Fredman Wilson's lifeblood has lost his power, and for the rest of his life, he will be trapped in extreme pain and unable to extricate himself. After the two went out, Mr. Orville hurriedly stepped forward to salute Charlie and said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, I was late. It is my fault to let you waste your tongue and hands with this bunch of garbage yourself. Please punish me." Charlie waved his hand, not caring about these, but asked, "Why are you here? Isn't this a summit of the construction and decoration industry? Are you still in the decoration business?" "Yes." Orville smiled and replied, "Most of the cement yellow sand used in Oris Hill decoration is controlled by me. Speaking of which, I am also a big middleman in the decoration industry, so they also invited me as well." Charlie knows that in the decoration industry, there are plenty of dealers, which are all grey industries. Orville is mixed with society. It is normal to do some grey industries for him. So he nodded and said, "You, don't do anything harmful to the world and don't bully ordinary people." Orville hurriedly said, "I follow Mr. Charlie's teachings. I have already started to cleanse. How can I dare to do those harmful things again?" Charlie grumbled with satisfaction. Orville pointed to Fredman Wilson's 4 deposed bodyguards and asked, "Mr. Wade, what about these 4 people?" Charlie said, "Take the legs of the fainted guy and throw them away so that it won't affect my mood." Orville nodded immediately, and instructed the people around him, "Don't you follow Mr. Wade's instructions?" Everyone hurriedly bowed, "We will follow Mr. Wade's arrangement." After finishing speaking, the knee of the person who passed out first was also abolished, and then they dragged 4 dead dogs and took them straight out. Fredman Wilson could only drive by himself and drove Wendy to the hospital for treatment of her facial injuries, and then drove back to Wilson's villa. In the car, Fredman Wilson was in pain all over, and his heart was full of extreme indignation. Wendy gritted her teeth and said in hatred, "My dear Charlie, this rubbish, even dared to beat you. He is looking for death. You must not let this beast go." Fredman Wilson's face was dark, with cold eyes, gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Don't worry, I will kill him. Not only will I kill him, but I will also take his skin off. I'm so big. No one has dared to do this to me." Wendy was overjoyed. Her disgust towards Charlie had already reached a peak, and now Fredman Wilson had a murderous intention on him, and he would not live long if she wanted to. Wendy said coldly, "My dear, when you do it, you must remember to take me. I will torture him severely. I will watch this rubbish kneel and beg for mercy with my own eyes." Fredman Wilson slammed a fist on the back of the seat, and said angrily, "I will definitely thwart this waste." Great! Wendy knew that Fredman Wilson's family had a lot of clout, and it would be so easy to kill Charlie. The reason why he met this fate today was mainly that the manpower he brought was not enough. If he had brought dozens of people over next time, would Charlie still survive? By then, Charlie will undoubtedly die. Thinking of this, she had already experienced a burst of excitement in advance of revenge. She couldn't help but looked at Fredman Wilson, and said delicately, "My dear, this Charlie will be killed by you sooner or later, so you don't need to be too angry now, lest you hurt your body." After speaking, She immediately gave a wink and said in a numb voice, "When we go home, I will take care of you." Fredman Wilson did hold back the evil fire, and he needed Wendy to help to vent, otherwise, he would have to hold back the sickness. Therefore, immediately after returning to Wilson's house, Fredman Wilson couldn't wait and pulled Wendy to go upstairs. Noah Wilson and Horia in the living room were embarrassed on their faces when they saw the two come in and went straight upstairs without saying hello. Seeing that the two were rushing upstairs, the old Mrs. Wilson coughed and said, "Wendy can keep up with Chairman Wilson, that is her blessing, you two should not think about it." Noah Wilson nodded awkwardly, and said, "Mom, I didn't think about it, but I felt a little awkward." Old Mrs. Wilson said disdainfully, "What's so awkward about this? Isn't it enough if you have money? The $5 million that Chairman Wilson gave to Wendy, is it now in your hands?" Noah Wilson nodded and said, "Yes, Mom, in my hands." The old Mrs. Wilson said earnestly, "If Wendy and Chairman Wilson have a better relationship, let alone $5 million, what does it count as $50 million? At that time, will all this money go into your pocket?" Upon hearing this, Noah Wilson felt much better. The reason why he promised his daughter to be together with Fredman Wilson was simply because of the money. Fredman Wilson invested $10 million in the Wilson Group and gave another $5 million to Wendy. This is a big deal, and this is just the beginning. Over time, he will definitely invest more money in the group. Thinking of this, Fredman Wilson immediately disappeared from the previous embarrassment and took his wife Horia back to his room on the first floor. As soon as he entered the house, he said anxiously, "My wife, the flat floor that we saw at Thompson last time, the down payment is $5 or $6 million, and we can also make up the first payment, but the decoration inside, I can't handle it, but now that Fredman Wilson has given Wendy the $5 million, we add the money and there is no pressure to buy the big flat." Horia was overjoyed at first and soon said with a gloomy expression, "I don't want to live on the first-class floor of Thompson. Jacob's family and the rubbish Charlie live in the villa area inside. I will live outside of them, stand guard for them, let them laugh at me. I won't go." Fredman Wilson said, "In this way, we are now in the early $10 million. And we will talk to Wendy tomorrow, let her blow the pillow breeze in the ears of Chairman Wilson, and see if we can let Chairman Wilson sponsor us millions more at that time. We will buy a villa with a down payment." Although Thompson's villas cost hundreds of millions at every turn, the prices of other villas in Orris Hill are not too high. A villa with a detached house, normally only 20 to 30 million, with a down payment of 40, the money on hand is enough. However, decorating the villa is also a huge expense. At least 3 to 5 million must be prepared for decoration, so Noah Wilson and his wife cannot afford it. However, if Fredman Wilson can sponsor a little, wouldn't it be easy to solve? Horia couldn't help getting excited and said, "You said, can Fredman Wilson give us some subsidies?" Noah Wilson smiled and said, "With the face of our family Wendy, I have to show him no matter what, I think he still likes our Wendy." Horia nodded, her expression full of joy, and the interface said, "Actually, it's really good for Wendy to follow Fredman Wilson. At least he can't lose money. Chairman Wilson is much brighter than Gerald's kid. Wendy has been with Gerald for so many years and even had a baby for him. He didn't say to give Wendy millions of pocket money." Noah Wilson nodded repeatedly and said seriously, that's what I said. The family surnamed White is not a good thing. Horia waved her hand. Forget it, let's not talk about the one that suffered thousands of swords. They will be thundered and killed every day, so let's talk about the house. There are quite a lot of Oris Hill villas, let's drive tomorrow. Take a look. Okay. Then first go to this other place in Oris Hill. I heard that the villa is not bad. The two of them were thinking about the new house when they suddenly heard a violent noise from upstairs at this time. Wendy and Fredman Wilson lived upstairs. The couple looked at each other and hurriedly went out to find out. At this time, Wendy ran down from upstairs with a crying voice. Noah Wilson saw that there were still 5 fingerprints on her face, and asked quickly, "Wendy, what's the matter? Did Fredman Wilson hit you?" Wendy cried and said, "Dad and Mom, he suddenly stopped working. I tried all kinds of methods and he still couldn't work. As a result, he became angry and slapped me." "It doesn't work?" Noah Wilson asked in surprise. "What's wrong? What's the matter?" Wendy couldn't take care of her clothes anymore, and hurriedly explained, "It's just that it's not working, the man's won, there is no reaction at all." "Hey!" Horia asked in surprise, "Could it be that he's getting older and not so easy to use?" Wendy shook her head repeatedly, "No. It was alive and well yesterday. It is suddenly totally unusable today." Only then did Noah Wilson understand why his daughter was slapped in the face. To be honest, a man who suddenly loses that ability will definitely lose his mind. As he was thinking, Fredman Wilson hurriedly ran down from upstairs wrapped in his nightgown. Horia hurriedly asked, "Fredman, what's going on? Why is Wendy not doing well? You can tell her that there is no need to do it, right?" Fredman Wilson's expression was extremely ugly, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't you bullshit, hurry up and drive me to the hospital." Noah Wilson was slightly dissatisfied with Fredman Wilson's attitude. Just thinking about the theory, the Lady Wilson also came over and said with a black face, "Noah, what are you doing in a daze? Fredman Wilson's body is the most important thing. Go and drive." Seeing that the Lady Wilson had come out to give orders, Noah Wilson didn't dare to talk more, let alone delay, so he quickly picked up the car key and took Fredman Wilson to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, Fredman Wilson's expression was so ugly, and he hated Charlie to death at this time. He finally understands what Charlie said before. Stepping on this into a lump of rotten meat, it is better to make himself look at the unusable roots uncomfortable. Knew it. He didn't know what method he used, so quietly, he was deprived of all the ability to be a man. How did he do it? He obviously didn't do any harm to his roots. Why suddenly he can't use it? He has been paying great attention to this aspect of maintenance for so many years. There are millions spent on kidney and chi every year. It has always been said to be a livelihood, even more than a young man in his 20s. Nothing less. What did Charlie do to him? The more Fredman Wilson thought about it, the more panicked he always felt that Charlie seemed strange. It's okay if this problem can be cured, but if it can't be cured, what's the point of paying it back by yourself? People's Hospital. Because it was already night, after Noah Wilson brought Fredman Wilson to the hospital, he could only hang up an emergency number. After waiting in line for dozens of minutes, after meeting the doctor asked, "Where is it?" Fredman Wilson sent out Noah Wilson, and said to the doctor himself, "Doctor, it seems to be dying all of a sudden, you help me find out what is going on." The instrument. The doctor was dumbfounded and said, "This is an andrological disease, and it is not in the emergency department. You should come over tomorrow morning and directly call the andrology doctor to check it for you. We at the emergency department are mainly responsible for headaches, brain fever, accidental injuries, or sudden illnesses." Fredman Wilson said angrily, "Doctor, is this a sudden illness? Can't you come to see it?" The doctor said embarrassingly, "I have been in the emergency for so many years, and I have never heard of sudden dysfunction. This thing has a process. It works well at first, then gradually becomes less useful, and then it becomes worse and worse. It's not easy to use, and then it won't work." Fredman Wilson didn't expect that he would describe it to him in such a detailed manner. He suddenly became angry and scolded, "Are you sick? I asked you to arrange an examination for me. How can you tell me this?" The doctor was also annoyed and blurted out, "What's the matter with you? I told you that your illness is not under our emergency care. If you mess around here, I will let the security guard clear you out." "You!" Fredman Wilson gritted his teeth angrily. After a while, he pointed to the computer in front of him, and said coldly, "Hey Cortana, look at Future Company Group." The doctor frowned. "What?" Fredman Wilson shouted coldly, "I want you to Google Future Company Group." The doctor was stunned by his attitude, and subconsciously opened the browser and searched for the Future Company Group. After opening the encyclopedia of Future Company Group, he saw the head of the chairman, Fredman Wilson. Isn't this the chair of the Commerce Committee in front of you?" Turned out to be a big man. The doctor hurriedly said respectfully, "Oh, Chairman Wilson, I didn't know if you are coming, don't be angry." As he said, he hurriedly said, "Well, please describe to me the course of the illness. I will see if I can arrange for a resident to help you go through the back door to check it." Fredman Wilson's face looked a little better now, and he said, "I didn't have any history of this illness. I was fine yesterday, but I suddenly cannot use it today." The doctor asked curiously, "Is it useless at all?" "Yes." Fredman Wilson said with a black face, "It's useless at all." The doctor said, "Then this may have something to do with the nervous system. So, Mr. Wilson, I will arrange for a neurologist to do an examination for you. What do you think?" Fredman Wilson waved his hand, "Hurry up." The doctor did not dare to neglect him, so he hurried to call the doctor in the inpatient department to help arrange the test. After all, it's already night. The outpatient doctors have long since returned home after getting off work. Only the inpatient department has night shift doctors on duty. Coincidentally, the doctor on duty in the inpatient department happened to be the attending doctor when Charlie's old in-law Jacob suffered a spinal injury a few days ago. The attending doctor performed a series of examinations on Fredman Wilson and looked at the results of various examinations with a grim expression. Fredman Wilson was lying on the examination bed in a panic. He can't feel that peace at all now. He feels that the place has disappeared, let alone use it again. He had no choice but to use this mouthful in his life. If he couldn't use it anymore, he might as well die. Seeing that the doctor looked serious at this time, Fredman Wilson asked quickly, "Doctor, how is my condition?" The attending doctor shook his head helplessly and said, "Fredman Wilson, your problem may not be cured, because through our equipment, your nerves have been completely necrotic and there is no cure. Is your hospital not good enough?" Noah Wilson on the side answered and asked. The attending doctor glanced at him contemptuously and said, "With the current medical methods, the damaged nerves can be slowly recovered, but the necrotic nerves cannot be brought back to life. It is like encountering a car accident. Some people can stand up slowly, some people will never stand up for a lifetime." As he said, he looked at Fredman Wilson again, and said seriously, "This situation is the same no matter where you go, even if it is abroad, it cannot be cured." "How could this be?" Fredman Wilson's face was pale and desperate, and he blurted out, "What I have is money. Can 100 million do? Can 100 million cure my roots?" The attending doctor said seriously, "Nerves are like human life. Even if you are dying, you have a chance to be saved. But if you die, you are really dead. No one can get you back to life." After that, he said again, "Don't say 1 billion, 10 billion won't save a mortal person. Look at Apple's Jobs, how rich he was. Didn't he die when he was in his 50s? As soon as he heard this, Fredman Wilson's heart felt like a thunder strike. Can't heal? Is it really bad? Isn't it because he has made so much money to be able to live a fairy life in the amusement world? If the roots are abolished, what is the meaning of his life?" Thinking of this, Fredman Wilson, a well-known business tycoon, even covered his face, burst into tears, and wept. Seeing this scene, Noah Wilson beside him felt a fever in his eyes and almost burst into tears. Being a man, he can understand Fredman Wilson's pain at this moment too much. At the same time, he couldn't help but tighten his leg roots, thinking that he must protect his roots anyway. A man can't do without roots. At this moment, the attending doctor suddenly said, "However, Chairman Wilson, to be honest with you, someone can cure your disease." "What? What you said is true." Fredman Wilson suddenly got excited, grabbed the hand of the attending doctor, and tremblingly asked, "Who can cure it? Tell me." The attending doctor smiled mysteriously and said, "This person, he is not from our hospital." "Then how do you know that he can cure nerve necrosis? Didn't you just say that nerve necrosis cannot be cured?" The attending doctor said, "It is true that it cannot be cured, but he alone can cure it. For him, he can cure people with high paraplegia and full paralysis from the neck down, not to mention you are just a handful of people. In the case of paralysis, it is estimated that he can easily heal you." Fredman Wilson was so excited that he blurted out, "Who is he? Where is he? Tell me." The attending doctor smiled and said, "Fredman Wilson, it's okay to introduce it to you, but would you also give me some introduction fee?" Fredman Wilson immediately took out the checkbook, wrote a check for 100,000, and handed it to him, saying, "If the person you introduced can really cure me, I will give you another 900,000. The attending doctor excitedly accepted the check, and then said, "There is a genius doctor in Oris Hill who cured a patient with high paraplegia a few days ago. This is a miracle in our neurology field. A clinic opened in Oris Hill. If you ask him to take action, maybe he can really heal you." When Fredman Wilson heard this, he was shocked for a moment, and asked happily, "The genius doctor you are talking about is Tiankai. Do you know God Dr. Tiankai?" the attending doctor asked strangely. Fredman Wilson was overjoyed and laughed, "It's more than acquaintance. The genius doctor you said is a family friend with our Wilson family. In the beginning the genius doctor, it was thanks to the relief of our family that he could achieve what he is now. In Oris Hill, this is great." Speaking of this, Fredman Wilson jumped up from the hospital bed and said to Noah Wilson, "Hurry up with me to visit Dr. Tiankai, I am saved." Asking for the address of Tiankai Clinic, Noah Wilson drove quickly and took Fredman Wilson to clinic. As soon as he arrived at the gate of the clinic, Fredman Wilson got out of the car and ran in impatiently. Before entering the door, he found a man who drove out a young man on crutches. The young man limped and pleaded, little master, please tell me to the genius Dr. Tiankai, and say I beg him to help me heal it. As long as he heals my leg, I will give him 5 million. The pharmacy guy said coldly, I'm sorry Mr. Gao Junwei, we said that the genius doctor said that you have offended the lifesaver of the genius doctor, so no matter how much money you give, he will not treat you. After speaking, he said again, Mr. Gao Junwei, you have come here every day for the past few days, and it has interfered with our normal business. Dr. Tiankai said that if you come back tomorrow, he will call the police. The young man on the crutches looked very painful, and begged, little master, please have a good word with the genius Dr. Tiankai, I am willing to give you 1 million for the benefit. The pharmacy guy pushed him all the way out the door, and said coldly, please go, don't come again. Noah Wilson recognized this young man after going in. Isn't this Gao Junwei from the Gao family? It is said that he offended Charlie at the auto show. When Jacob was hospitalized, he was fouled by Charlie, causing Orville to throw him directly from the ward on the 3rd floor of the hospital, and it broke his leg. So he hurried forward and asked in surprise, oh, Mr. Gao Junwei, what's wrong with you? Uncle Wilson. Gao Junwei recognized Noah Wilson, sighed, and said, don't mention it, didn't I break my leg? I have been suffering from sequelae. The doctor said that I might be lame for the rest of my life, so I hurried to seek help from a genius I was treated, but the genius doctor didn't want to see me at all and drove me out. Noah Wilson was startled, and he blurted out and asked, is it because of Charlie that Dr. Tiankai is not willing to save you? Yes, Gao Junwei gritted his teeth and cursed, I didn't expect that even the genius Dr. Tiankai would be bewitched by this kind of thief. Fredman Wilson asked in surprise, what's the situation? Uncle Shi also knows that Charlie. Noah Wilson nodded and said, it seems that the relationship is pretty good. I don't know what's going on. Fredman Wilson said coldly, how can his relationship with Uncle Shi compare to my relationship with Uncle Shi? I know Uncle Shi when I was 3 years old. This has been more than 50 years. After speaking, he walked in with a haughty look. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, Uncle Shi, save me, Uncle Shi. The guy inside who just drove Gao Junwei away said, Sir, we are already closed. If you want to see the doctor, come back tomorrow. Fredman Wilson hurriedly said, I and Uncle Shi are old friends. Our two families are family friends. As he was speaking, Tiankai heard the sound and greeted him from inside. Seeing Fredman Wilson, he asked in surprise, "Fredman? Why did you come to Oris Hill?" Fredman Wilson said, "It's a long story, let alone those, Uncle Shi, I'm sick, you can save me." Tiankai hurriedly said, "Don't worry, slowly tell me what's going on." Only then did Fredman Wilson spoke and explained his condition again. After Tiankai finished listening, he slowly frowned. Necrosis? This is really tricky. In Chinese and Western medicine, there is no good way to treat it. If it is really necrotic, basically it can only be scrapped. So, he hurriedly asked, "How did you do this?" It's not easy to see such special nervous necrosis. Fredman Wilson didn't want to talk about his embarrassment tonight. He said vaguely, "I don't know what's going on. It's just like that. I went to the People's Hospital just now, where I checked it out and said it was neurological." After speaking, he pleaded with a sad face, "Uncle Shi, I was the one you grew up watching. You must help me." Tiankai felt very tricky. This illness is not easy to deal with, even with his medical skills. It can only be said to maintain the status quo so that he will not be necrotic there. But if you want to cure nerve necrosis and restore function, I'm afraid it's impossible. So he sighed and said, "Fredman, your problem is very serious. Nervous necrosis is an international medical problem. It can't be cured, and I have no good way." Fredman Wilson hurriedly asked, "Uncle Shi, I heard from the attending doctor at the People's Hospital that you can cure even the paralysis below the neck. Why can't I be cured with such a slight paralysis?" Tiankai sighed and said, "To tell you the truth, your disease is either incurable or the cost of treatment is too high." After speaking, he said again, "I have a magical medicine given by my benefactor in my hand. The effect of this magical medicine is really amazing. You only need to take half a pill and you will get better." Fredman Wilson was overjoyed and hurriedly pleaded, "Uncle Shi, then you can give me this medicine. You can't just watch me become incompetent." Tiankai was also a little embarrassed and said sincerely, "Fredman, Uncle tells you the truth. I originally planned to keep this medicine for my life. As you know, I am old and the doctors will not treat themselves. Maybe someday I am dying and I will rely on this medicine to save my life." Fredman Wilson hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed his head while begging, "Uncle Shi, you can't die without saving. You can save me this time because of the face of my father and the friendship between our two families for so many years." "Right." Tiankai hesitated for a moment, struggling inwardly. After a while, he let out a long sigh and said, "It's fine, I'll give you half of this medicine." He received the favor of Fredman Wilson's father. Although he has been helping their family members to see a doctor for these years, the kindness has long been reported several times or 10 times, but now that Fredman Wilson has suffered this kind of injury, he feels that he can't die. Seeing Tiankai finally let go, Fredman Wilson was overjoyed and couldn't help but thank Tiankai. Tiankai was about to take out half of the magic medicine he had personally cherished but suddenly saw Zhovia rushing in from outside. Fredman Wilson was in a good mood. He saw the young and beautiful Zhovia running in and said with a smile, "Oh, Zhovia! Do you know Uncle Wilson?" When Zhovia saw him, she was stunned. Looking at Grandpa Tiankai, he actually took out half of the magic medicine that Mr. Wade gave him. She felt a little in her heart, and hurriedly walked over, pulled Tian Kai aside, and whispered, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Tian Kai sighed and said, "Your Uncle Wilson is injured. I am going to give him this half-magical medicine, as it is to pay back the kindness of his Wilson family back then." Silvia hurriedly said, "You can't help me, Grandpa. Let's not say that you have reported the favor of the Wilson family thousands of times a long time ago. Just talk about this wretched Fredman Wilson. Do you know who he offended today?" Tian Kai hurriedly asked, "Who did he offend?" Silvia blurted out, "Mr. Charlie Wade." After hearing what Silvia said, Tian Kai was dumbfounded in shock. He was surprised and asked, "You mean, Fredman offended Mr. Wade?" "Yeah." Silvia nodded repeatedly, and said, "And the offending seems to be quite terrible. He actually ranted to Mr. Wade's wife and offered Mr. Wade's wife 10 million to sleep with him." Tian Kai was furious, and this Fredman Wilson was guilty of the bear heart and leopard, dare to provoke Mr. Wade? Mr. Wade has the kindness to reinvent himself. Compared with him, what is Fredman Wilson worth? Yes, his father helped him back then, but after so many years of helping this family treat illnesses and saving its people, he has already repaid their favors thousands of times. What's more, his father is gone, and he doesn't owe him anything. If he has simply something wrong with himself, he can save him, and of course, it is his duty to save him. But if he messes with Mr. Wade, then sorry. The enemy of Mr. Wade is his enemy." Thinking of this, Tian Kai darkened his face and stepped to Fredman Wilson's face. Fredman Wilson couldn't help feeling a little nervous when he saw him coming in with a calm face. Before he could ask, Tian Kai took the lead and asked in a cold tone, "I ask you, did you offend a person named Charlie Wade today?" Fredman Wilson nodded and said, "Uncle, she actually knows it too? That smelly rag actually made me embarrassed in public. Sooner or later, I will kill him. He will not be stumbling for a few days. Uncle, she doesn't have to worry." Tian Kai sneered, pointed outside, and shouted, "Get out of here!" Fredman Wilson was stunned immediately, and said in surprise, "Uncle Shi, what's the matter?" Tian Kai said in a loud voice, "Don't call me uncle. From now on, I am cutting off from you and your family, and I will have nothing to do with you." Fredman Wilson was frightened. With Tian Kai here, he and his family could be said to have lost their lives. After all, making money is easy, but the life extension is difficult. If he turned his face with Tian Kai and returned to the family, it would not be better. More importantly, if he turns his face with him, wouldn't he give himself the half-magic medicine? What about your own roots? What about the happiness of the lower body and the second half of life? So he asked eagerly, "Uncle Shi, what is going on? Did you make a mistake?" Tian Kai snorted coldly, and said, "I tell you, Mr. Wade is not only my savior, but also the only true dragon in the world. If you dare to disrespect Mr. Charlie, it is tantamount to hitting me, Tian Kai, in the face. For your father's face, I won't clean up you today, so let you go. Don't show up in front of me in the future. Mr. Wade? Real dragon." Fredman Wilson hurriedly said, "Uncle Shi, you two, are you always confused and deceived by that smelly rug? What kind of master or real dragon is he? Isn't he just a son-in-law? A hanging rug? He joined the Wilson family, treated me as a guest, and gave me his sister-in-law Wendy to accompany me on the bed. Compared with me, he is a hairy man. Speaking of this, Fredman Wilson said again, Uncle She, this kind of smelly rug is worthy of your maintenance, and even the decades of friendship between our two families are ignored. Tian Kai was furious when he heard this. He picked up the medicine pestle next to him and slammed Fredman Wilson's head fiercely. He cursed, "You still dare to speak rudely to Mr. Wade? Get out of here!" Fredman Wilson didn't escape, but Tian Kai smashed his forehead with a pill, grinning in pain, and a big bag instantly popped up. He grinned and stared and cursed, "Mr. Shi, you are so old-eyed. Don't worry about believing that kind of liar, even you dare to beat me. I kill you." After speaking, he raised his chair and was about to smash it towards Tian Kai. Although Tian Kai is older, he is also a practitioner. After the old wounds in his body were cured by Charlie's magic medicine, his body was more agile and flexible, which was not comparable to an obese middle-aged person like Fredman Wilson. As a result, Tian Kai dodged dexterously, avoiding the bench that Fredman Wilson smashed over. Fredman Wilson knocked it down, raised a chair, gritted his teeth, and said, "Surnamed Shi, if you want to survive, you can obediently take out the half of the medicine. Otherwise, I will kill you today. Do you still want to beat my grandfather? I'll kill you." Silvia was so angry that she rolled up her sleeves and rushed towards him. The Oris Hill family, who has really studied traditional medicine for many years, has also learned martial arts more or less. This is especially true of the Shi family. The Shi family is not only a master of traditional medicine, but also a family of martial arts. Even the granddaughter Silvia, who is a foreigner, has also practiced good kung fu. It's more than enough. Before Fredman Wilson recovered, he was kicked to the ground by Silvia. Then, Silvia put her cloth shoes against his throat and said coldly, "If you don't roll anymore, don't blame me for being impolite." Knowing that he is not Silvia's opponent, Fredman Wilson hurriedly escaped from clinic. Before leaving, he would still curse and threaten, "The surname Shi, you will wait for me. Today's hatred, I will definitely find you in the future. Remember me." Thing. Tian Kai angrily scolded, "Get out of here. Never let me see you again." Fredman Wilson escaped from the clinic in embarrassment, his face full of anger. Seeing Fredman Wilson coming out, Noah Wilson hurriedly greeted him and asked, "Fredman, how is it? Has the genius Dr. Tian Kai cured you?" Fredman Wilson gritted his teeth and said bitterly, "This ungrateful old man actually said that Charlie is his benefactor, and he won't heal me for life and death, so he drove me out." Noah Wilson didn't expect that Tian Kai was also bewitched by Charlie's stinky rag. He couldn't help but sighed, "This Charlie is really lingering." Fredman Wilson scolded, "It's all the waiting for Mr. Wade. No matter it is Tian Kai or Charlie, there will be no good end. I will definitely make them pay the price of blood." Noah Wilson also had enough of Charlie's suffering, but he had never had a chance and was unable to seek revenge from Charlie, so he was very depressed and very angry. Moreover, he was particularly greedy for the Thompson first-class villa that Solomon White gave to Charlie. If this Fredman Wilson could really kill Charlie, then the younger brother Jacob's family would have nothing to rely on, and wouldn't he let him kill them then? In that way, Thompson's villa is his own. Thinking of this, he resisted the excitement in his heart, and hurriedly echoed, "Fredman, what you said is very true. That Charlie is an unfamiliar white-eyed wolf. A beast. He who has lived in our Wilson family for so many years, eating from our Wilson family, but repeatedly humiliating our family, and now bullying Fredman, it is simply a heinous sin, and must be paid with death." Fredman Wilson really had a murderous intent on Charlie. However, he is also very clear in his heart that there are 5 words that are right: the raptors are not the same. In other words, it is difficult for a strong dragon to crush a local snake. He couldn't kill Charlie at all now. What's more, this guy's own strength is very strong, and it seems that he should still be a standard trainer. As the saying goes, the gangster knows martial arts, and no one can control it. If you want to engage with him, you must find a real master, otherwise, it might be useless. At the moment, the most important thing is to find a way to cure his own disease, otherwise, life will be worse than death in the future. Thinking of this, Fredman Wilson hated Tiankai's teeth. This old dog day. He obviously has medicine that can cure him, but he doesn't even use it on him. What is even more annoying is that he actually drove him out of his hospital for that Charlie. What a... Noah Wilson was also worried. If Fredman Wilson's illness cannot be cured, wouldn't his daughter be honorably laid off? In that way, how can he reach the pinnacle of his life? The Wilson family now only got Fredman Wilson's $10 million investment. Fredman Wilson promised $80 million at the beginning, and $70 million has not been given yet. If he can't find the ability to be a man, then $70 million is definitely not coming their way. Thinking of this, he was even more anxious than Fredman Wilson, hoping that Fredman Wilson could regain his power. So he asked with great concern as he drove, "Chairman Wilson, this she is so ignorant, do you want me to find some people for you, beat him up, and take his medicine?" Fredman Wilson waved his hand. This old dog thief is very strong, and his granddaughter is also very unusual. More importantly, the old master has seen a lot of big people and really offended him. Maybe it's big trouble. Tiankai is a master of traditional medicine. In East Cliff and several other big cities, he has been regarded as a guest by countless big figures and big families. Although Fredman Wilson is also very powerful, he really has to count it. Among the people Tiankai knows, he is even in the top 30. Can't get in. Therefore, he dared not offend Tiankai rashly. To cure the disease, they can only find another way. But at this time, he suddenly remembered something and said to Noah Wilson, "I have a friend who owns a pharmaceutical factory in Oris Hill. It is one of the largest companies in the country. I will contact him tomorrow." Noah Wilson breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, "That's really great. I'm really afraid that your body won't recover." Fredman Wilson said, "Go to the roadside drugstore first and buy me some Viagra to try." "Okay." Noah Wilson hurriedly parked his car on the side of the road obediently, got off the car and went to the drugstore on the roadside, and bought Fredman Wilson a large box of imported Viagra. Fredman Wilson couldn't wait to say, "Go, drive home quickly, let Wendy try it with me." Noah Wilson was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that Fredman Wilson would actually ask his daughter to try the medicine in front of him. However, since this kind of thing has been done, there is no need to care too much about it, so he didn't take it seriously anymore, and drove home quickly. Tian Kai was still angry. Two people who asked for their own treatment came tonight, and they all offended Mr. Wade. That Junwei Gao pretended to be forced with Mr. Wade in the ward that day, and finally failed to pretend to be forced. He was thrown directly out of the window on the third floor by Mr. Orville and broke his leg. He did not expect that he still had the face to come to seek treatment for himself. And that Fredman Wilson, the most hateful as him. He had offended Mr. Wade before, so he almost gave him the medicine, unaware of the story background. If he really cured him, wouldn't it mean that he would avenge Mr. Wade and Invisible? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh with his granddaughter Zhovia. Zhovia, fortunately, you came in time. If you come late, Grandpa would give Fredman Wilson half of the magic medicine. Zhovia was also a little scared, and said, Grandpa, I heard that the reason why Fredman Wilson lost that ability is because of Mr. Wade. That's it. Tian Kai couldn't help exclaiming, Mr. Wade can destroy his nerves invisibly. This is really a great ability. Even if the best surgeon manually removes the nerves, it can't be so accurate. Zhovia said, he deserves it. Who made him offend Mr. Wade? After speaking, Zhovia said again, Grandpa, I think you should make a stand with the entire Wilson family. Otherwise, if Mr. Wade knows that we have a relationship with their family and misunderstands you again, that would be bad. Okay. Tian Kai nodded and said, I will call the sister-in-law of the Wilson family and explain the matter to her. After all, Tian Kai took out his mobile phone and called Fredman Wilson's mother, Baiwa Wilson. Baiwa Wilson is 83 years old this year. There is a Chinese saying, 73, 84, Hades will pick them up. This means that there are two major obstacles for the elderly, which are 7. At the age of 13 and 84, the elderly are most likely to get sick and die at these two ages. The reason for such a saying is closely related to the two great saints in ancient China. Confucius, the sage of Confucius, lived 73 years old. Mencius Meng Yasheng lived 84 years old. The Chinese people have always admired Confucius and Mencius from ancient times to the present. That's why there are two big hurdles of 73 and 84. In Baiwa Wilson's first hurried year, when he was 73 years old, he suffered a serious illness. At that time, it was Tian Kai who rushed all the way to East Cliff and prescribed 9 prescriptions to Baiwa Wilson before pulling her back from the gate. Baiwa Wilson knew in her heart that she was about to reach the second hurdle in her life. This time she was getting older and might be even more dangerous, so she especially hoped that she could invite Tian Kai over before her birthday. So, when she received Tian Kai's call, she cordially said, Tian Kai, I was thinking about calling you. Next month is my 84th birthday on the lunar calendar. Will you have time? If so, what do you think of it when you come to the birthday banquet for the Lady Wilson? Tian Kai knew very well that Baiwa Wilson was going to have a second hurdle year this year. If it weren't for what happened today, the Lady Wilson would not need to say that he would go there before her birthday and personally treat her body so that she can be safe. Live to be 90 years old. But now, Fredman Wilson actually provokes Mr. Wade, so, No matter what, he can't go anymore. Besides, he has repaid his gratitude for so many years, and that is already repaid enough. Therefore, he said lightly, "Sister-in-law, I have been treating the Wilson family for so many years. The kindness of Brother Wilson to me back then can be regarded as the kindness of dripping water and the spring of water, so in the future, we two don't have any further contact." When Baiwa Wilson heard this, she immediately asked nervously, "Tian Kai, what's the matter with you? Our two families have been in friendship for so many years, so how can you stop it?" Tian Kai said earnestly, "Sister-in-law, Big Brother Wilson was kind to me back then. I have repaid the Wilson family for so many years without asking for anything in return. This is natural." Baiwa Wilson hurriedly said, "But, what is the reason for you to break up with our Wilson family? If it's an old woman, where I didn't do well, you tell me, I will definitely correct it." Tian Kai said, "Sister-in-law, it is not your problem, but your son Fredman who is the problem." "Fredman?" Baiwa Wilson said in surprise, "What's wrong with him? Did he offend you? But he is in Oris Hill now. I'm also in Oris Hill." Tian Kai said earnestly, "I saw Fredman Wilson, but he didn't offend me much, mainly because he offended my benefactor. This benefactor has the kindness to recreate me, so I am healthy now. The gratitude of the benefactor can only draw a clear line between the Wilson family. My sister-in-law forgives me." Baiwa Wilson felt a little in his heart. His son actually angered Tian Kai in Oris Hill? What a man! Tian Kai is a well-known traditional medicine master in China. How many super big people are ill and demand him to be treated? There is often a saying in the circle of the rich and powerful in East Cliff, saying, "If the king of Yan made you die for 3 shifts, and Tian Kai can keep you until 5 shifts." The meaning of these words, that is to say, even if the dying person, as long as Tian Kai takes the shot, they can live for a while. This is simply a dream for the powerful class. Macau gambling king Stanley Ho has been using various high-tech methods in the hospital to extend his life in recent years. The money spent in the hospital alone is hundreds of millions each year, but to him, what is the hundreds of millions? No life is more precious. If life comes to an abrupt end, what if you have billions of wealth? Didn't it burn out and live in a small wooden box? Therefore, the more powerful, the more fond of Tian Kai. No one of East Cliff's rich and powerful envy the Wilson family. The reason is that they are family acquaintances with Tian Kai. Others abandon their wealth, and they may not be able to change Tian Kai's treatment once, and because of their friendship with Tian Kai goes to Wilson almost every year. This makes countless people jealous to death. Baiwa Wilson's husband, Fredman Wilson's father, had cancer more than 10 years ago. If Tian Kai hadn't done everything possible to sign up for him, how could he live until last year and leave? When the old master left, he was already 86 years old, and his life was long enough to make healthy people envy. Baiwa Wilson was even more hopeful that Tian Kai could live to be over 90 years old, or even over 100 years old. She did not expect Tian Kai to have a break with her family at this time. This made her nervous, and she blurted out and pleaded, "Tian Kai, don't follow Fredman's words, after all, he is your junior, some places offended you, please be more tolerant, I will call him when I turn back, scold him, let him come to you and apologize to you immediately." Tian Kai said indifferently, "Sister-in-law, no need. If he offends me, I will forgive him, but who he offended is my great benefactor, so you don't need to talk about it anymore, and I won't change my mind. I hope you will live a long and healthy life in the future, goodbye." After speaking, Tian Kai immediately hung up the phone, then turned off the phone directly, and said to Silvia, "Close the door and go back to the hotel." On the other side, Fredman Wilson took Noah Wilson's car and returned to the Wilson family villa. Once back to the villa, he poured a glass of water in the living room on the first floor, took out Viagra directly, looked at the instructions above, and said, "Eat one pill at a time." Old Mrs. Wilson felt ashamed to see him directly taking out this medicine. Noah Wilson's wife, Horia, was even embarrassed to see. Although Wendy did not speak, her expression was expectant. Since Noah Wilson lost that ability, his attitude towards her has become very poor. Don't talk about giving her pocket money, even the promised follow-up investment will not be followed. It now seems that only if Fredman Wilson quickly restores his male power, can she continue to benefit from him. Otherwise, Fredman Wilson will definitely abandon her, even the entire Wilson family. So far, the 10 million invested by Fredman Wilson is only able to sustain the Wilson Group, and it is far from enough to bring the Wilson Group back to its peak. Noah Wilson laughed at the sight and said, "This one can do it one at a time. It is very effective." "Yeah." Noah Wilson nodded, and then, directly removed 3 of them from the medicine board and took a bite of it. He hoped that the imported Western medicine would be effective, so he said to Wendy, "Wendy, follow me upstairs." Wendy nodded hurriedly, came over to grab Fredman Wilson's wrist, and said flatly, "My dear, let's go back to the room and try again." Fredman Wilson gave a hum, pulled Wendy into the room, and then asked her to use her best efforts to help him find confidence. But it is a pity that Wendy has been tossing for a long time, but these medicines are of no use. Fredman Wilson swallowed 3 more pills, but still couldn't find the slightest feeling. This moment made him feel down. Seeing Wendy still showing off on him, he was so angry that he kicked her under the bed and shouted, "I don't need you here, get out." Wendy was afraid that Fredman Wilson would be angry with her, so she hurriedly said, "My dear, don't be too anxious. I believe I will find a way to cure you soon. Get out." Fredman Wilson yelled annoyingly and threw the pillow at Wendy. Wendy dared not stay to touch him, hurriedly wrapped her clothes, and hurried out. Fredman Wilson lay on the bed alone, trembling with anger. A successful man, after reaching the pinnacle of his life, what he most looks forward to is to be able to appreciate the amorous feelings of countless beautiful women. However, once he lost his ability in that area, wouldn't all that money has nothing to do with him? He can't accept it. Just when he was furious, the phone rang suddenly. It was his mother who called. Fredman Wilson hurriedly connected the phone and asked respectfully, "Mom, you haven't slept at this late hour?" Biwa Wilson cursed on the other end of the phone, "You! Are you going to kill me? Do you want me to be 84 years old this year or not?" Fredman Wilson hurriedly asked, "Mom, what kind of thing are you talking about? How can I harm you?" Biwa Wilson blurted out, "I ask you, how did you offend Tian Kai?" He is going to make a clean break with our family. Do you know how much loss this will cost to our family? Fredman Wilson shivered in shock at what his mother said. Because he offended that pauper Charlie, not only did he not save him, but he wanted to make a clean break with his family? This old thing was blinded by Charlie's medicine, right? He was full of resentment, but he could only say to Biwa Wilson, "Mom, that old dog with the surname She is not a good thing." Biwa Wilson gritted her teeth and cursed, "I don't care what you do. On my 84th birthday, Tian Kai must come to East Cliff to check my body and diagnose and treat my problems. Otherwise, I will not forgive you." Many people are more selfish as they get older. The older you are, the more you are afraid of death, and the more you want to live longer. Therefore, Biwa Wilson doesn't want to know why Fredman Wilson and Tian Kai are in conflict. She just wants Tian Kai to continue to be a health doctor for herself. With him as a health doctor, it is no problem to live to be over 90 years old, but without him, she may not even be able to pass this year's hurdle. Fredman Wilson was also depressed. He wanted to explain and complain, but Biwa Wilson didn't give him a chance at all. After giving the order hard, she immediately hung up the phone. Fredman Wilson smashed the room angrily, and then finally gritted her teeth and picked up the phone to call Tian Kai, trying to use repentance and pleading to ask him to continue to see his mother. But Tian Kai's cell phone was turned off. This made Fredman Wilson even more angry. But no way, he dared not disobey his mother's orders, so he dressed in embarrassment, went downstairs, and drove to Tian Kai's clinic. When the car arrived at the gate of the clinic, it was already closed. Fredman Wilson gritted his teeth at the door but saw two figures walking out of the darkness not far away. One of them limped and seemed a bit familiar. So Fredman Wilson hurriedly hid to the side and observed it secretly. As the two people approached, he saw that it was a middle-aged man in his 50s with a young man in his 20s. The 20-something young man was leaning on a cane in one hand and a huge green oil drum in the other. There are already some defeated middle-aged people next to him, holding the lame young man in one hand and carrying the same green oil drum in the other. Fredman Wilson recognized the young man. When he came to see Tian Kai for treatment today, the young man was being driven out by the pharmacy. It seems that this guy is seeking no cure and is about to set fire to Tian Kai's clinic. The two people who came were Junwei Gao, who had pretended to be forced by Charlie in the hospital before and was finally thrown down from the third floor by Mr. Orville. Junwei Gao left his legs with sequelae and became lame. He hated Charlie in his heart. He wanted to find Tian Kai to heal the injury before going to Charlie to settle the account, but he didn't expect Tian Kai to directly prevent him from entering the door. He returned to the hospital and complained to his father Jianjun Gao. The two were too angry, so they bought 2 barrels of gasoline and wanted to burn Tian Kai's clinic. The two people's plan was to set the clinic on fire, teach Tian Kai a little lesson, and then find a way to find Charlie for revenge. Fredman Wilson heard Junwei Gao say to Jianjun Gao at this time, "Dad, you said that the old master named Shi can't live in the clinic." "How do I know?" Jianjun Gao said coldly, "Well, he can't live here, he just burned him by a fire, with me, it's..." Junwei Gao gritted his teeth angrily, and said, "This surname Shi, he couldn't save him. It would be cheaper to burn him to death with a fire. After that, he opened the gasoline tank and said to Jian Junggao next to him, "Dad, I think I will pour the gasoline in through the rolling shutter, let the gasoline be fully spread inside, and then make a fire outside to ensure that there are even cockroaches inside can't live." Jian Junggao nodded, snorted coldly, and said, "Okay. Burn them to death." Although Jian Jungao's strength is not top-notch in Oris Hill, it is not top-notch, but when it comes to doting on his son, he is really the number one in Oris Hill. This old grandson's ancestors have been singles for several generations. He has given birth to several daughters in a row, and he has such a baby bump as Junwei Gao. Naturally, he has been spoiled since childhood. When Junwei Gao was in elementary school, he was beaten with a ruler on the palm by his teacher's hand because of his poor study and class trouble. Jian Junggao took someone to the school and broke the teacher's right arm, leaving him disabled for life. When Junwei Gao was in junior high school, he suffered a lot from fighting with others at school. Jian Junggao directly hired someone to knock his classmate who beat his son into a vegetable. Such examples are countless in Junwei Gao's growth process. In the eyes of Jian Junggao, anyone who bullies his son will end up dead. Tian Kai wouldn't heal his son's legs, that Charlie actually harmed his son to look like what he is today, even more therefore, he planned to burn Tian Kai to death today, and then according to the planned plot tomorrow, he would kill Charlie. Fredman Wilson saw that the two of them were really going to set fire to Tian Kai's clinic, and might even burn Tian Kai to death. Suddenly he became anxious, and he did not hesitate to jump out and say to the two of them, "2. Impulse." Gao father and son were shocked. They had thought that no one would notice them at night, but suddenly a person would come out. When Junwei Gao was shocked, he also recognized Fredman Wilson, and said in surprise, "Are you the one who came to see Tian Kai before? Why, are you going to help him?" Fredman Wilson hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I don't care about Tian Kai's life or death. But his magical medicine is worn close to his body. I believe his magical medicine can not only heal your legs, but also my injuries. If you burn him with such a fire, then his magical medicine must be burned too." Junwei Gao suddenly realized. Yes indeed. I didn't expect it. Tian Kai really has a magical medicine, and that magical medicine can cure even high-level paraplegia with spinal injury, let alone his lame leg. If he burned him to death with fire, wouldn't there be no chance to heal the lame leg? Thinking of this, he suddenly hesitated. Fredman Wilson said at this time, "Two people, I don't think so. Don't burn the old dog's shop first. Find a way to tie up the old dog, then grab his medicine, and finally kill him." Jian Junggao frowned and asked, "Why, you also an enemy of Shi?" "Of course there is a grudge," Fredman Wilson said coldly, "and it's an unshakable hatred. I also want to kill him quickly, but first I have to get the magic medicine to cure the disease." Jian Junggao said, "In this case, it's better for us to tie Shi together and force him to hand over the magical medicine, and then kill him alive." "Okay." Fredman Wilson nodded and said, "In this case, let's leave contact information. Let's find a time tomorrow. Let's meet to discuss the details." Jian Junggao and his son did not know that Tian Kai only had half a magic drug. But Fredman Wilson was very clear. After all, he almost got the half pill from Tian Kai's hand in the afternoon. He himself didn't dare to attack Tiankai, but if the two of them dared to attack Tiankai, then he would be able to sit back and enjoy his achievements as long as he did a little trick. For example, he can imitate a few medicines according to the shape of the half medicine and then take them with himself. After they tie Tiankai, find the half medicine from Tiankai, and give them the fake medicines, and by that time he could not only heal his own lifeblood, but even push Tiankai's death completely on the father and son. Jianjun Gao didn't expect so many twists and turns. He just felt that since they have a common enemy, they can be comrades in arms. Many people are powerful, and the risks can be shared equally. Why not do it? As for the magic drug, he didn't know how much Tiankai had. However, to him, Tiankai had to die if he had medicine, and he had to die if he didn't because he and his son could not swallow this breath. So, he and Fredman Wilson exchanged contact information, and the two agreed to make time for a telephone conversation tomorrow, and then left Tiankai's clinic with his son carrying the gasoline can. Fredman Wilson was complacent about his plan, and drove back to Wilson's villa in a hurry, planning to go back to boil some noodles, get some black paint, and knead out a few doughs like magical medicine. On the way back from the Gao family, Junwei Gao asked his father Jianjun Gao, "Dad, let's get Charlie out and kill him according to the original plan tomorrow, and then make an appointment with this person to kill Tiankai together." Jianjun Gao nodded and said, "Kill Charlie first, and when Charlie dies, let's get Tiankai's magical medicine and heal your legs." "Great!" Junwei Gao said excitedly, "I find the magic medicine, I won't have to be lame in the future." Jianjun Gao smiled slightly and said, "Son, don't worry, even if Dad is lame, he can't make you lame." After speaking, he said again, "Let's go back and rest first. Tomorrow you will call and follow the plan we planned." "Okay, Dad." The next morning, Charlie bought it and came back early. After breakfast, his mother-in-law Elaine went out to make an appointment with a good sister at the Mahjong Hall. Elaine is a Mahjong fan. As long as there is nothing wrong, she will play Mahjong in the Mahjong Hall all day long. Just out of the house and walking towards the Mahjong Hall, Elaine suddenly received a call. She took out her mobile phone and took a look, and found that Junwei Gao was calling, so she picked up the phone and asked, "Junwei, how do you think of calling Auntie?" Since Claire married Charlie, Elaine thought about one thing every day: how to get her daughter to divorce Charlie and then marry a wealthy family. At the earliest, she hoped that her daughter would marry the second generation of rich Wendell Jones, but the Jones family went bankrupt unexpectedly. What's more amazing is that Wendell Jones's family disappeared overnight and never appeared in Oris Hill. Later, she hoped that her daughter would marry Fred White of White's family, but when Fred White was helping her to collect debts, he was slapped 10,000 times by Orville's men, and then he never dared to come out again. A few days ago, she hoped that her daughter would marry Junwei Gao. As a result, Junwei Gao was directly thrown out of the window of her husband's ward by Orville. Since then, Junwei Gao has disappeared. It can be said that at this stage, Junwei Gao is actually the best candidate in her mind. Although last time he found a deceitful genius Dr. Zhongjing, he could not heal her husband's injury, but he was also a victim of being deceived, so Elaine never blamed him in her heart. On the contrary, Elaine often felt responsible for Junwei Gao's broken leg. After all, they were kind at the time. So when she received a call from Junwei Gao, she was not only happy but also a little guilty. Junwei Gao said solemnly on the other end of the phone, "Auntie, when Uncle Wilson was hospitalized in a car accident last time, I was actually deceived and hired a fake genius to treat Uncle. I had no chance to say sorry to you, oh." Elaine said flatteringly, "Junwei, what are you talking about? Auntie has always been very grateful and guilty for what happened that day, it is the auntie who should say sorry." At this time, Junwei Gao said hurriedly, "Where is it, auntie? This is all my negligence. I haven't checked the details of that Dr. Zhongjing." As he said, he continued, "So, I want to treat you to a meal so that I can apologize to you. I hope you can agree." Elaine was immediately happy. To be honest, she didn't feel that Junwei Gao was at all wrong in this matter. On the contrary, in her opinion, Junwei Gao was actually one of the victims of this incident, and because of Charlie's rubbish, he broke a leg, and he was really innocent. Moreover, Junwei Gao's call made Elaine's impression of him a little better. Take a look at Junwei Gao. He doesn't say that he has money at home, he is so enthusiastic, he is so polite and respects her. This is a good candidate for a son-in-law. If he can get in touch with her daughter more, and turn around and drive away Charlie's pauper who pretends and fools all day long, won't her daughter be able to marry a rich family? More importantly, the Gao family has a convention and exhibition center, and the amount of decoration projects in it are huge. If she and her daughter come together, wouldn't these projects also fall into the daughter's company? Even if you take the project, turn it over, or subcontract it to others, you can at least make a price difference of several million. Isn't that 10,000 times stronger than that of Charlie? Therefore, it is difficult to find a good guy like Junwei Gao with a lantern. Let the daughter seize this opportunity to say anything." Thinking of this, Elaine hurriedly said politely, "Oh, Junwei, you want to invite Auntie to dinner, how sorry, Auntie, don't be so polite, this is what I should do." Junwei Gao heard her tone loose and hurriedly said, "Auntie, to show my sincerity, I also specially prepared a gift worth millions." Millions of gifts? As soon as Elaine heard this, her heart immediately blossomed. "Mom! Junwei Gao, this kid is so caring. A million gifts, isn't this sent?" So she smiled and hurriedly agreed, and asked excitedly, "Junwei, you tell Auntie the time and address, Auntie must be there on time." Junwei Gao smiled and said, "Auntie, the address is set at T&H Hotel on Hex Road. It is the best seafood restaurant in Oris Hill. It's at 12 o'clock at noon. Then we will meet at the door." "Good, good." Elaine happily agreed. Junwei Gao said again, "Auntie, don't tell Claire now, I also planned an apology ceremony for her, and then you will have to help me secretly." Elaine smiled and said, "You young people understand romance. Okay. Auntie promises you not to tell her." Elaine absently soaked in the mahjong hall all morning, waiting for the time to be almost up, and hurriedly went to the T&H Hotel to make an appointment with Junwei Gao. In the morning, she repeatedly thought, what would Junwei Gao's million gifts be? Jewelry? Cash? Check? Or something else? For people like Elaine, who loves to take advantage of the small bargain, Junwei Gao's 1 million gifts is too attractive. Last time, Elaine took Claire's check for 180,000, and took away 160,000 from it. She was so happy that she couldn't keep her mouth shut for several days. So, the thought of getting 1,000,000 gifts from Junwei Gao immediately made her feel even more excited. At 11:30, Elaine bid farewell to her friends, walked out of the mahjong hall, took a taxi, and went straight to the T&H hotel. When she arrived at the place agreed by both parties, she did not rush in as agreed, but stood at the door of the hotel, waiting for Junwei Gao's arrival. Soon, a brand new black Mercedes-Benz car slowly stopped in front of her. Immediately afterwards, the car door opened, and a young man in a suit and leather shoes stepped out of the car. The person here is Junwei Gao. Junwei Gao looked really handsome and decent, but the only regret was that he was limping on foot. A young girl was attracted by Junwei Gao's cool looks and Mercedes luxury cars. She was looking at him with glare, but when she saw that he was a lame, she immediately sighed in regret and turned away. Junwei Gao saw all this in his eyes, and was extremely angry in his heart. He hated Charlie and Tiankai, and he just wanted to get rid of them. However, at this time Elaine was not far in front of him, so he could not show his inner hatred, so he limped in front of Elaine. Junwei Gao came to Elaine, smiled slightly, and said, "Auntie, sorry, I have kept you waiting." Elaine hurriedly said, "Oh, Junwei, you are so polite. I have just arrived." With that, she looked at the brand new Mercedes behind Junwei Gao and asked in surprise, "Oh, this Mercedes, is this your new car?" Junwei Gao smiled and said, "Yes, this Mercedes S500 was just taken out from the Ford's store this morning. The price is not too expensive, it's just over 1.6 million. After speaking, he handed over the key to Elaine's hand and said, "Auntie, please accept the key to this car." After receiving the key, Elaine was confused and couldn't help asking, "Junwei, what are you doing?" Junwei Gao smiled slightly and said, "Auntie, this is the gift I told you on the phone. I think Uncle Wilson and Claire both have a BMW. You don't have a car yet. This is really unreasonable, and I'm sorry." Elaine was very excited and said, "Oh, Junwei, this is too expensive, how can Auntie want it?" Although she said that, the car key in her hand was tightly held by her, and she had no intention of returning it to Junwei Gao. Junwei Gao naturally took this point of her careful thinking in his eyes, and said with a smile, "Auntie, to be honest, both Uncle and Claire drove 5 Series BMWs with a ragged class. The total amount is only 900,000. It's not as luxurious as this Mercedes S500. I think, according to your temperament, Auntie, you should be driving a Mercedes, so please accept this car." Elaine's heart has long been happy. She is the typical representative of the snobbish mother-in-law often seen in society. In her eyes, there is nothing but money. In her opinion, the most important thing for a son-in-law is to have money and be willing to spend money on her. Otherwise, no matter how good the son-in-law is, he is just stinky in her eyes. A man like Junwei Gao is the best candidate for a son-in-law, because he is willing to spend money on his mother-in-law. Now she hasn't come together with his daughter, he's already so generous. He wants to give her a 1.6 million Mercedes-Benz. If Claire really follows him in the future, will he not be able to give her a big villa? Big yacht? When she thought of this, she was so excited. However, the superficial politeness is still necessary. She grabbed Junwei Gao's arm and said seriously, "Oh, Junwei, you are so touched by Auntie, but this car is really too expensive. If I accept it, maybe it's not suitable, right? How could it be inappropriate?" Junwei Gao said earnestly, "Auntie, it is my heart to give you something, you can just accept it with confidence. There is nothing inappropriate." Elaine was overjoyed when she saw what he said so firm, and stopped being polite with him, put the key in her pocket, and said with a smile, "The aunt, you can just follow me, just accept it." "Thank you so much, Junwei." Junwei Gao glanced at her expression of being obsessed with wealth, sneered in his heart, and shot at Claire's mother's snobbery. It seems that his and his father's plan can definitely be realized successfully. However, he thought so in his heart, but said politely, "Auntie, let's stop pestering at the door, let's go in and eat and talk." Elaine was very excited and nodded quickly, "Well, go in and chat, go in and chat." The two walked into the T&H hotel. Junwei Gao directly asked the waiter to take them to the reserved position. After the two were seated, Junwei Gao directly ordered a large table of expensive delicacies. While eating, Junwei Gao pretended to be guilty and said, "Auntie, the last time Uncle Wilson was hospitalized, I actually asked a quack doctor to come over. I didn't do this well. I have to say sorry to you here." Elaine looked at Junwei Gao and said with a smile, "You kid doesn't need to be like this. Auntie didn't blame you for what happened last time. You are also a victim." Junwei Gao nodded, looked at Elaine, and said earnestly, "Auntie, to tell you something in my heart, I want to chase Claire and marry her as a wife. I don't know if you will agree." When Elaine heard this, she was excited and said, "Agree. On to 10,000 agrees. To tell you the truth, in the aunt's heart, I have long considered you my future son-in-law." Junwei Gao sighed and said, "You think so, but I'm afraid Claire is there, and still hates me now. If the misunderstanding between the two of us is not resolved, I'm afraid it will be impossible to talk to her in this life." Elaine immediately said, "If you have any misunderstandings, just let it go. If you are embarrassed to say it, Auntie will help you." Upon hearing this, Junwei Gao knew that the fire was almost over, and suggested, "Auntie, I actually wanted to apologize and confess to Claire in person. Or else, our family has a villa by the river. I will be there tonight. Where can I set up a candlelight dinner, make some flowers, and put it in a heart shape? Then you will ask Claire out for me and let me apologize to her. By the way, confess, maybe she will become excited and accept my apology. That's it." "Oh, Junwei, you're so caring." Elaine's eyes lit up and hurriedly said, "That's okay, I'll call Claire." After speaking, she took out the phone and prepared to call Claire. Junwei Gao was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Auntie, you must not tell Claire, I want to ask her out, otherwise she will definitely not come to see me directly." After talking, Junwei Gao said again, "You can tell her, just say that you have a friend who is going to decorate a large villa on the riverside, hoping to find her studio to design it. She has such a strong entrepreneurial spirit. The order will definitely be accepted as soon as possible. Then you will come with her. When I confess to her, you can help me say something nice." Elaine's eyes lit up and she blurted out, "That's great. Just do what you said." Junwei Gao's eyes flashed a sinister look, and he thought to himself, "Tonight, I will engage Claire, who is all-powerful, and then try Elaine, who is still charming, and another call to trick Charlie. One shot break him." At this time, Claire, Charlie, and Jacob had just had lunch at home. When Charlie went to the kitchen to clean up his dishes as usual, he suddenly received a call from Silvia. As soon as the call was connected, Silvia answered shamefully, "Mr. Wade, what are you doing?" "At home." Charlie said lightly and asked, "What's the matter? What's wrong with?" Silvia said, "I want to call and report something to you." "Say it." Silvia hurriedly said, "That's right. Yesterday Junwei Gao and Fredman both ran to my grandfather's clinic and asked him for treatment. My grandfather didn't know that Fredman had offended you, so he almost gave him the half of the medicine you gave him last time." Charlie asked curiously, "Why? Does your family have a good relationship with Fredman? How could your grandfather give him such a precious medicine?" Charlie knew very well in his heart that in Tiankai's mind, the magic medicine he gave was regarded as a treasure, and it was as important as fate. No one will give such an important thing to someone who doesn't know or has a normal relationship. Silvia hurriedly said, "My grandfather and Fredman's father were like brothers. The two have a relationship for many years, so the two also have a relationship for many years." Having said that, Silvia told Charlie the causes and consequences of his grandfather and the Wilson family for so many years. After Charlie heard it, he realized that the Wilson family was actually the benefactor who helped Tiankai back then. And Tiankai's ability to repay the kindness of Wilson's family for so many years because of a little favor back then made him somewhat admired. What made him more satisfied was that Tiankai was able to distinguish right from wrong, and for his own sake, he did not hesitate to break with the Wilson family. Although Charlie is the young master of East Cliff's top family, he left the family with his father when he was very young and ran around to survive. After his father died unexpectedly, he could only survive in the orphanage and tasted the warmth of the world. It was also in the orphanage that Charlie developed the character of knowing and repaying kindness. Aunt Lena from the orphanage helped him. Even if she suffered all the insults, sarcasm, and personal attacks from the Wilson family, he asked the old Mrs. Wilson for help and loaned money to Aunt Lena to treat her illness. Claire helped him, and even if she couldn't look down on the poor Wilson family, and his wonderful pair of fathers-in-law, he would not leave Claire. It is precisely because he is the person who knows the gratitude that he has a better impression of Tiankai. It seems that Tiankai will surely become his loyal follower in the future. Since Tiankai is so loyal, he should give him a little advantage. Thinking of this, Charlie decided to go to Tiankai's clinic in the afternoon and give him another medicine that he refined last time. That time, Charlie refined 30 medicines in one go, Senta gave away medicines, and more than 20 medicines are still with him. For him, this medicine is almost at his fingertips, and it has no practical effect on people who practice the 9 profound sky secrets and have spiritual energy in their bodies, so giving him one is almost zero cost. Moreover, Charlie also hoped to let people like Oris Hill know that he was a person with distinct rewards and punishments. You must be punished if you do bad things. However, if it is done, it is even more rewarding. Tian Kai did a good job this time, so he will go to reward him in the afternoon with the magic medicine he dreamed of. So Charlie asked Silvia, "Is your grandpa in clinic this afternoon?" "Yes." Silvia asked excitedly, "Mr. Wade, are you coming?" Charlie gave a hum, and said, "I'll go over and take a look this afternoon." "Great, Mr. Wade!" Silvia cheered and said, "Then I will tell Grandpa now, he must be very excited." After finishing the kitchen, Charlie just came out and saw that Claire was ready to go out, so he asked, "Wife, are you going to the studio?" Claire shook her head and said, "Mom called me and said that she has a friend who wants to renovate a villa and wants me to pick up this list. I'm going to check it out." Charlie asked hurriedly, "Which villa area?" Claire said, "The villa is right by the river." Charlie smiled and said, "That's right, you can drop me off at clinic, I'll go to see the genius Dr. Tian Kai." Claire asked in surprise, "Are you going to see the genius Dr. Tian Kai? Or I will be with you too, let's buy something by the way and visit this old master." Claire was very grateful to Tian Kai, because she always felt that it was Tian Kai who rejuvenated and cured her father's high paraplegia. Charlie smiled and said, "You don't have to worry about it. You can take care of your affairs when you take me to the place. I can go to see the genius doctor." Claire said, "That's not appropriate." Charlie smiled and said, "There is nothing inappropriate. Besides, the genius doctor has a weird character. Let's go together. People may not be happy." As soon as Claire heard this, he nodded and said, "All right, then you go first. If possible, make an appointment with the genius Dr. Tian Kai, and let us treat him to dinner." "It is good." The couple went out together. Claire drove Charlie to the direction outside the city. Passing by clinic, Charlie got out of the car and told Claire to drive carefully, and walked into the gate of clinic. Tian Kai was in the clinic to see a doctor at this time. When he saw Charlie coming in, he was suddenly excited, got up to greet him, and said, "Mr. Wade, you are here." Charlie smiled slightly, and said, "Be busy first, don't worry about me." Tian Kai nodded, and called Silvia, who was filling the medicine in the back, and said, "Silvia, Mr. Wade is here. Come out and entertain him." Silvia immediately dropped her work, and walked over with 2 red clouds on her cheeks. "Mr. Wade, you are here." Silvia's voice was crisp and sweet, and there was an innocent smile on her face, especially the 2 shallow dimples, which looked particularly loving. What surprised Charlie even more was that unlike other women, Silvia always had a faint fragrance of perfume, and what she carried was a faint fragrance of medicinal materials. In most drugstores, the medicine inside is very strong, and it doesn't smell good at all, but the smell of Silvia's body is fragrant, and even has a somewhat soothing effect. Charlie looked at her and smiled. "Now that your grandfather is recovering, you just retreated behind the scenes and started fighting." "Yes." Silvia smiled sweetly, "But I don't always fight. Grandpa sees 5 patients in person every day, and I see the rest." Charlie nodded and said, "Your medical skills are already superb. I believe it won't be long before you will become a famous doctor in Oris Hill." "How can it be?" Silvia couldn't help but shyly said, My medical skills are far worse than Grandpa, and are even worse than Mr. Wade by 1,000 miles. At this time, Tian Kai escorted the patient away and said to the fellow in the clinic, "Say hello to the patient waiting to be treated, and say that I have a distinguished guest here. I want to suspend the consultation and entertain first. Please forgive me." After speaking, he immediately walked to Charlie, held his fist and bowed respectfully, and said, "Hello, Mr. Wade. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.